Hi, I'm Steve. We're looking at the Porsche first, just to give you a couple of ideas. Air oil separator. The Porsche air oil separator is right here, and just like the BMW, it has the thin plastic corrugated tubing that is very brittle and cracks and just breaks into pieces, and it's miserable. So that's what used to be connected to this, and then it came up around and connected on the side of the throttle body. So you're going to have to be somewhat creative. You're going to have to get a couple of different hoses and or plumbing plastic pieces to get yourself from one size to another. I've got a kink here that I've got to fix because that's a little too long. I need to make that shorter. Here is my oil catch can. I like to use the plastic 90-degree elbows. They really take stress off the hoses. So we're coming out of the air oil separator. We go into the catch can. There was a filter, a little baby air filter right here, and this was exposed to the atmosphere. And what I did is I plugged up the throttle body input, and I was getting fumes here just like I did on the BMW, so I opted to not leave it that way. I took off the air filter and I've run another hose from the catch can up to the original throttle body intake. And again, I just made my own. I went to the parts store and found rubber hose that was large enough to go over the top of the plastic connector. I found some plastic pieces at the hardware store and actually glued them with some Harbor Freight 2-part epoxy to one of the elbows. And I'll show you a full picture of the elbow. That goes into the hose, and that simply goes like that. With the way that I've done things, I'm getting almost zero oil in the catch can. And I think the big reason for that is normally the distance from the oil air separator to the intake plenum is fairly short, and by doubling the length of all that, it gives extra time to the air oil separator to pull the oil out and just have basically air. So I'm getting next to no oil in the catch can here. Same thing on the BMW, and this is all very clean. I'll show you some of the pieces, and we'll move to the BMW. Here we are on the M3. You'll notice that the ASC throttle body for the engine control management is gone. I have the Bimmer World silicone boot. So what happened normally is, I don't know, let me look real quick and see if that's even in the picture. There's your corrugated plastic hose. Kind of hard to see all the way over there. There we go. Here's the corrugated plastic factory hose that cracks in a heartbeat. And so imagine taking this off and then trying to fit something around that nipple, if you will. That's what we saw on the Porsche. So on this application, you're going to keep the factory flexible plastic tube that goes down, and right down here under the manifold is where the hose is going to go, and that goes to the air oil separator. Boy, that's a mouthful, isn't it? So once that hose goes underneath here down to the air oil separator, it's a very short distance over to the bottom of this boot here, and as a result of that being so short, the saturated air doesn't get enough time inside the separator to drain all the oil out, and gets pulled into the intake and makes it really nasty in the throttle body. So basically what we've done is, from the separator, there's a new hose that runs from underneath and comes up around, and it's this guy right here, and goes into the catch can. And then initially I had just the air cleaner on that side open to the atmosphere, and while driving the car you could smell the stinky, oily fumes. So I took this off, got another piece of hose, and went back down. And this is just heater hose. This is 5/8 inch heater hose on both of these, and the catch can had a variety of nipple sizes, so I was able to make that work. This goes back down and plugs into the bottom of this bellows or elbow with something that looks like that. And that took away the oil smell completely. Now I'll show you in a minute the trick that I added to the catch can to make it even better, but this has been on for a year and I have never seen any oil on the bottom of this dipstick. And the reason I feel is that it has enough time and distance with all the extra hose to allow the air oil separator down here to do its job 100%, so that the only thing that makes it up this hose is air without oil, and then it just goes back around and the plain air gets sucked up through the bottom of this into your throttle body. I don't feel like taking all this apart, sorry, but the throttle body is really, really clean and no issues, no oil smells. And I just happened to locate, I've got the cold air with this thing, so it was a great spot to locate this. Without all this, you could come underneath here somewhere and basically do the same thing. If you've ever done any soldering, you'll know what these parts are. When your iron's hot and you want to clean the tip, you dunk it in there. These are replacement pads for that. They came off of eBay, a company called Thermaltronics. The brand is insignificant, anybody's stuff. Think of this as basically a Scotch pad or a Brillo pad from the old days, but it's not, you know, the steel that's going to rust around your car environment. This is some kind of brass or bronze or synthetic whatever. The whole point of this is when you have your catch can, the inlet tube comes into the top portion of the catch can, and on the bottom is a small plate that has little holes drilled in it. The air coming in with the saturated oil has to slow down over that plate, and it gives the oil a chance to drip down to the bottom of the catch can while the air goes right around and goes out the other side to the intake. So when you unscrew the lid, down in the bottom of the main compartment, stuff two of these guys, then put it back together. So after the air that's saturated with oil goes through the little plate with the holes in it, it then has to go through these two guys as it's going up and out the other side, and it's just more surface area for the oil to separate from the air. And that's really all you need to do. You'll ultimately find that you're getting next to no oil in your catch can. And you don't need an expensive, fancy catch can. They're all working at, you know, about the same way. I don't remember the exact price, but I don't think that can was more than $15 or $20. Hopefully that helps you. Do not totally disconnect your air oil separator. It'll create more problems than it's worth.